All right, pleasant good morning. Friday, TAPPSCON 2024 here in Waco. Dan Morgan, John Walk, Lone Star Christian Sports Network. And we are here with the Executive Director of the Texas Association of Private and Parochial Schools, Brian Bunselmeyer. Brian, thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate you having me. Great
Appreciate you,
opportunity.
appreciate you having us here. You know, we're your guest, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. It's been a good TAPPSCON, been a good year, good way to end one year and kick off the next. So we're excited for what we did in 23-24, but we're more excited about 24-25.
Are you guys going to ever figure out a way to schedule on a break for your staff? I mean, you guys are on the go the entire year. I mean, obviously, the break's called July.
Like it's called July. We know what that is. No, I think, we all came from the private school. We all came from an opportunity to serve. It's definitely servant leadership. We're going to take some breaks along the way, but, the world keeps creeping in. We'll jump off with Spike down there in August. The only break we really get is August, September. Everybody's in district play or non-district play, and we don't have to worry about it. But they'll take some time when they can. Staff needs more time off than I do. I just need to keep the ship going. So,
well, we talked. When we were back maybe at TAPPSCON in San Antonio, is that TAPPS has continually added events, activities to meet the needs of member school and what the schools want. And so, but yeah, I mean, every time you look around, it's like you guys are, moving from one championship or a showcase to the next. And
I think the hard thing is in the fall, it's pretty well predicated out, a week or a weekend. When you get to the spring, by the time you're 4 days of tennis and then you go to a choir or a band and then you bounce back to academics and then it's track or whatever, the only thing I think that is really weird is that we see the whole calendar, and we really do. But when you're a coach or a director, you kind of focus in on what your day and what your time is. And even at the school level, I don't know that I understood everything that was going on out there. So, but it's a packed calendar. It's on the website, so at least we tell you where we're going. Whether we show up or not is dependent on other things.
What are some of the highlights of this past year?
The highlights. I think coming out of COVID, there was a big hoorah. And people were glad to be anywhere. And we saw a pretty good little uptick in attendance, but people participated. The fine arts drug behind, but I think COVID for singing with their projection and with instrumentation the same way. And I think just being in a crowded room to take a test or doing a speech. So those numbers as far as participants have come back. We had some really good crowds at most of our events this year. The biggest highlight was, other than track, the weather pretty well cooperated. We got most of our things in without too much detrimental effect. But I think the highlight that I saw was just the level of play was good at everything we did. Even at the field hockey showcase, 4 teams, but they gave it their best. It was fun being never been to St. Agnes on their field, so it was great. Kind of you and I do the same thing, and Dan as well. We go new places. It's kind of fun to go see something. We had some great times in the track meet. We had some great times in cross country and whatever. I think we had a lot of new schools popping up in the Final Four. That was kind of a fun thing too, to see people that maybe it's the first time they'd made it. We added. TAPPS is really a weird number. When I came to TAPPS, we were at 208. We're at 244 right now as far as member schools. We don't grow a lot because we lose a couple, we gain a couple. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of close. But the highlight is we've had new schools that still want to come to TAPPS. And I keep getting calls from schools that are K through 8, and they're playing in high school. So I think that we're going to have more smaller schools continue to join. I think that's our bread and butter. I think we do a really good job of providing opportunity for 1A, 2A, and 3A. So.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you have two probably, I learned the one talking to Robbie, it was about Angleton Christian. They'd be coming from TCAL into TAPPS. And then you pick up a very strong athletic program coming out of TCAF with Victory Christian Academy out of Decatur. I mean, those are going to be two good additions to the organization at that lower 1A level.
I think they're a good addition with not only their quality, but the depth of their programs. So, a lot of times you get a 1A, 2A school, they're only doing 2 or 3 sports. Those are going to do several sports. They're going to fill a gap. They're going to fill a need. They're going to give us breadth. Belleville Faith's coming back. But I think also what I'm seeing is that there's a new emphasis on that University Model School. But one of the things that I'm seeing is they see the need to have extracurricular activities, and that's what I really enjoy. And it's not just athletics. I mean, that's what we do, and we're familiar with. But it's also the band or the choir. It's also coming and being a part of cheer and dance. Cheer and dance continues to grow, and I think giving that opportunity is huge.
Well, Dan actually has appreciation for the fine arts. As his wife Nicole is, what is it, a theater teacher in Montgomery?
Theater and speech as well.
Yep. So one act play. If everybody comes to play one act play, it'll be the biggest year we've ever had.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
And some of them have a full light board and a full sound board, and they're used to doing that. And some of them go to the wall and go click, lights on, lights off. But you know what? I think there's an appreciation that I have now that maybe I didn't have 18 years ago. We're here to serve everybody, and it's hard. Just like, and you guys know that from the broadcast. Sometimes you come in and they have a table, and sometimes you're in the stands, and sometimes you're standing in a corner. Gyms are built of all size, shapes, and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Our stadiums are all size, shapes, and whatever. But I think that giving opportunity is huge for us, and for both the teacher and the student. Sometimes it's the teacher that they've got the kids that want to do it, and being able to have an outlet. Now, every year we get new activities proposed. I don't know that we'll do bowling or archery, but, the fact that we're willing to listen tells me, hey, this is okay. I don't know that we're ever going to do there's some things you just can't do. I mean, I don't know. People want to add the javelin in track and field. It's just one part of an overall deal. But
Right.
Do I want to throw the dum-dum or do I want to throw the javelin? Well, I'm kind of the guy that if I'm going to throw the javelin, let's throw the javelin. Big pointed sticks in kids' hands, I don't know that we'd ever have a place for it. We have one of the best track meets I've ever been to. You got 5,000 people in the home stands and 1,500 on the visitor and the kids and whatever, and you're running in front of it. Scares some folks, but I've been to the UIL and other championships over the years. I've been to the NCAAs. I just love that feel of you ramp up 1-6 with the girls and 1-6 with the boys, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity. Field day can get a little hairy, but the rest of it works pretty good. Track was a phenomenal. Other than some wind, it was a phenomenal day.
Yeah. What about we've talked over the years about NIL and all those types of things. I mean, it seems like some of the noise, because the noise at the collegiate level is grand right now. I mean, it's just the noise at the collegiate level is just taken over with the NIL, the collective, the agreement with the Power Four conferences. So it's like kind of taking the focus off. But what's rumbling under the surface, and is that really going to become a reality given all I think the negativity to me from NIL and collective at the collegiate level? Is it really still coming, or?
I think it's coming. I think it's going to be how it's defined. I think it's going to be what's allowed, what's not allowed. There's a theory that private schools can play this really well because they're backed by money, they're independent, they're entrepreneurial. There's some UIL schools, public schools, are going to play it really well too if they want to. I hate that it shifts the landscape to quality and victory. We listened to Robbie Critchfield earlier today, and I think his whole emphasis, he's a very young man. But he preaches a very old game, and his whole game is let's build the whole child, let's build the whole student, let's give them life skills. And if you win doing that, you win doing that. But I think there's an emphasis now and I'm not going to blame club and select.
Sure.
I think it's cultural. I think it's parents. We want to be successful, but we want to be uber successful. And I think that's going to drive it. I think you're going to find some super teams, TAPPS and UIL, and everybody else will have to figure out how we're going to navigate that process. Like if you're doing NIL, you're in a division, or if you're not.
Interesting.
I think that there's going to be a lot of people that want it, and then I think there's a lot of people like I think we're all in the same boat. Dan, you've been with us in the UIL. They're going to say, hey, let's put some brakes here and see how it goes. I think the same thing's true with school vouchers. I have my personal opinion, but TAPPS is an entity. We have no opinion if you take vouchers or whatever. I think there's a feeling that it's going to grow private schools to the nth degree. It's going to just be exponential 2 to 4 to whatever. I don't know that I see that.
Yeah, I mean,
I struggle with that.
My daughter's at First Baptist Academy, and their tuition's 14, 16, 17, which is. If it's $8,000, it's not going to make that big of a dent, And the thing I keep telling people is schools have got to have room. They may not
Well,
have, may
and
not have
so,
room.
if what we saw coming out of COVID is private education, whether it's TAPS or, again, any opportunity,
Sure.
if you did private education well during COVID and after COVID, then you've grown and you're probably reaching some numbers that are making you make a decision. Am I building new? Am I adding teachers or whatever? If you were average, then maybe you dropped. The biggest thing that we're seeing right now that I'm seeing is if you're truly a small church-sponsored or independent private school and your tuition is under 10 and you're trying to be affordable to the masses, you're struggling financially. That's where the voucher system could come in handy, but only if your kids or those that would have approached you to before are going to come to you. So I don't know that those two things are always going to go together. And am I going to take a voucher and go to a smaller tiered school if I'm really wanting a bigger tier school? Meaning, do I want to be in a school of 1,000 or do I want to be in a school of 100? I've been in both, but those are different attitudes. So I think vouchers, they're going to come. I mean, obviously we've seen our leadership in the state of Texas fight for it and fight against it.
Right.
I think NIL in some way, shape, or form will come. I'm interested to see what some of the things governing the UIL, if you go back and look at some of the bills filed late in the legislative session, I think they've got some interesting things coming with transfers and how they handle that. So, TAPS, we're rolling out our transfer policy hasn't changed, but it may have to. I always believed in run what you brung. So when I got them as a 7th grader, 8th grader, or freshman, I just thought, that's what I'm going to have when they grow up. I will tell you that mom and dad are willing to change a kid on the fly right now.
Yeah.
I don't blame them, but I'm thinking if you're a really good athlete on an average team, then go build the people around you up. And what I'm seeing in our transfers is I'm a really good athlete on a team that's probably going to go 6-4 and make the playoffs but not make a run, or I'm a really good athlete and I can move down the street. I may not get as many minutes or score as many points or whatever, but we got a chance to run all the way. I think mom and dad are, if all things are equal, if the beans in the pot are equal, it's a good education, a good program, they're willing to make the change. I think that's going to be a challenge for all of us. Transfers, NIL, and vouchers. I think it's a trifecta.
But it's kind of our culture and, the narcissism that many people possess to.
It's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
It's a good way to
I
say it.
probably shouldn't have used that word, but you know what? I'm getting to the point where I'm getting old enough that the IDC, I don't care.
That's it.
As long as I'm not breaking any conventions or rules or
I don't think that's age, John. I've been that way for quite a while. But you look at it and in the public school setting, we see kids move constantly, and it's not a part and parcel of private schools. It's every school.
It's everybody, but it's our society.
Right.
And I'll tell you one thing that's going to make you more and more mobile is working from home. If mom and dad don't have to drive to downtown Fort Worth or downtown Dallas or drive somewhere and they're working at home, then maybe homeschooling becomes an option that it never was before. Or maybe, the local school that they could walk to or drive to is not as important as am I going to have daycare or extended care. And, the school districts that are now going 4 days a week, we've got people that I know in my neighborhood up in Roanoke that with Sanger going 4 days a week are now looking at that as an option, like even moving to Sanger because they'd have Friday, Saturday off, and all those Friday games are not missing time from school. So.
Yeah, and the other thing in that is you talked about university models. You have schools like that where they only go to physical school a couple days a week, and then they're online or homeschooled the other days. And I have a lot of ex players that are opting for that because they have moms that stay at home.
Well, that's the big deal too.
Kids.
Are you a single income family or are you multiple? And the post-COVID, I'm not blaming COVID, but that post-COVID shift of the financial model where, I don't know, making the money I make now is taken until I'm 63. There's kids that are 24 years old coming straight into the marketplace making more than I make. And now housing costs a lot and transportation costs a lot and education costs a lot. But you know what? If you're making that kind of money and your wife can stay, the mom can stay home and be part and parcel. Again, we have the most educated society almost since the Civil War with the amount of college graduates and whatever. I don't know that we've ever had the breadth and the depth of the ability to homeschool. And the university model school, you know, if it's truly done in the right way, they're doing as much work at home as they are in the classroom, but that requires you as the parent to be a party in the education. So I think that's going. I do think homeschooling is going to continue in the bigger pockets to make a push. I also think that, you know, I think it's taken this long coming out of COVID and some other social issues that are going on in the real world to figure out, you know what, if I want a distinctly Christian worldview, I'm probably not going to get it if I don't go somewhere that's distinctly Christian. I can have tolerance, I can have acceptance, I can tolerate you, you can tolerate me, and we can be different. But if I want us to all be pulling the same yoke and we're all going down the road, I got to go find that. And I think people are back to wanting to do that.
Yeah.
So, and how that affects athletics or academics or, you know, one-act play or a choir, I don't know.
Certainly want to respect your time, but
Sure.
one thing that you brought up, I mean, with, you know, you have a few members that are following that university model, so you embrace some of those homeschool components as part of that curriculum. Does the board ever get to a point that they would embrace a full homeschool organization with certain guidelines and parameters of where you take things in the gray out as much as you can? Is that something that...
I think that what the board's looked at, this is 18 years that I've been sitting in this chair. Well, Mr. Burleson's chair 12 years ago. I took his chair, but it's been a while. I think the homeschool component, you know, we've thrown around a lot of different ideas. I think there's other organizations that, I don't want to say cater, but I think they do a good job working with the homeschool groups. The thing for my staff is that I'm dealing with 244 schools.
Right.
And underneath that, how many thousand programs, but we're going through a central point. I think you're seeing in the homeschool world, it's a homeschool basketball. It may be called the same organization, but the basketball, the volleyball, the football, the baseball, they're all driven by a different individual or group, which makes it much more difficult. So instead of contacting one person for the Bryan homeschool group, I'd be contacting 8. We have looked at in the past, you know what, John, you've called our cross-country meet, do a great job at it. You know, from a cost perspective, you know, running 2 more divisions wouldn't hurt me a bit to go out there and have a boys' homeschool and a girls' homeschool. Not sure that would ever happen. That's probably one of the places where it could start,
Right.
if that makes sense. And yet, at the same time, I'm not going to do a homeschool because when they get together, they do a varsity girls, varsity boys, JV girls,
Right.
JV boys, junior high girls, junior high boys, and elementary.
Understand.
Because that's how they have a meet.
Mm-hmm.
If they were only to run the 2 races, it's not really a. So I do think there's some things here. I think swimming is another natural progression. You could put the homeschool. They could be in the pool. Doesn't matter if they're in the pool with you, but the point totals and the whatever. I mean, those are things. You know, in high tech, you just push a button and you can separate it out.
Yeah.
I think music would be another excellent component. You know, so many homeschool students probably do play the flute, the violin, the piano. Bringing them in and having them just be a part of what we're doing. I think when it gets to the team sports, that's where it gets a little iffy. The homeschools would have to change. Right now, I can't take them. I think the board would look at it. But I do think that when you look at that component of, you know, they are normally age-based as opposed to grade-based. There'd have to be some changes on their part, but I'm not ever going to say no because I think there's some value in all of it. And there's, you know, especially those that are embracing, for our schools, we are the private and parochial, so we have both sides. But if they're embracing the same ideology and mission and vision, I don't see a problem with it.
But, you know, TAPS has continued to grow and to provide structure. You know, you've got professionals, you know, from a staff standpoint, you know, that the 4 of you leading have that some of those organizations don't have. They don't have the depth, or, you know, or maybe in some of the homeschool environment they don't have. I mean, I know that there's one school out there that told me, hey, we go to, for just an example, we go to NXR in the Woodlands because the state meet, they don't run it as well. And so I know that
Yep.
those situations that are out there, so that they go, hey, NXR is our state meet because it's run well.
Well, if you look at charter schools and you look at homeschools, there's an opportunity out there. There's other leagues now that service that. We're high school only. Our board has looked at, do we extend down and do junior high? I don't know that I have very many AEC or board members that want to do a junior high state championship like other people do.
Yeah.
But if you were going to tell me we're going to do a regional championship in Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, and Austin or San Antonio or the Valley, and bring your junior high basketball team or whatever, I don't, what we do is put on events. We put, and my staff gets mad at it. We blow ups and a lot of flags and we brand it. But I think that if you can keep games on time, you put quality effort into it, and you give a quality opportunity. I think the homeschool folks would love to come. I think charter schools, but both of those have to grow up a little bit. I'm not trying to say that in a. I think I think that we are the more mature. Let me just put it that way. I'm mature, but sometimes. But I think TAPPS has learned what it is and what it's not. But we're still going back to Robbie's talk this morning. Is this where you want to be because this is all you can be, or is this where you are right now and you can be something else? So I always want to look at the box and then say, how big can we make the box? So that's why we're doing a fall soccer showcase, or we're doing whatever to give opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise. So.
And again, those folks get excited even about the showcases and that, so much so that they like it to be a state championship, and that drives my sports information director mind off the wall.
Or you're our national champion if you're a KIPP school.
Yep. Yep.
You have to comment on that. It's a running joke between Dan and I.
There you go.
So,
but you think about that. Everybody wants to be a champion of something.
Yeah.
I just think that the showcase mentality, like for our lacrosse, our field hockey, they're not going to be. We've got 4 field hockey schools, and we have 16 boys and 10 girls that play in the Texas High School Lacrosse League. What we wanted to do was showcase TAPPS lacrosse, and I think it worked well. We're getting ready to do Spike Down again, so we'll have a lot of volleyball teams come up. And it's a great opportunity to have that many Christian private schools underneath one roof. Mm-hmm. That's empowering to me. I really appreciate what we do. Rusty and his group, Rusty Beam up in Fort Worth, them do a great job with that private school baseball tournament that they do up there. So, but the showcase opportunities for us, I think, give our schools a chance to come do something.
When do you get to a point? Or you have some guidelines out there, actually, don't you, in the bylaws as far as where that line between a showcase and a championship is?
So we were in this building the first weekend in August for robotics, and we had 36 schools and 40 teams. I think robotics is very close if you have that many and there's an impetus. So you have 244 schools, 1/6 of them do something.
Right.
I think we're pretty close there to say, if they petitioned, we'd have to look at it. Sand volleyball, we've got whatever it is.
Yeah, you've got a good group.
Got 150. I think we'd have more. If you took sand volleyball and you said, hey, second week of May, we're going to have a Houston region, a Dallas region, a San Antonio and Austin region, and a West Texas region, and we're going to take the top 5 or top 6 in each region to state, I think that could be one that actually has a following, an impetus, and an opportunity to grow from a showcase to a championship. Lacrosse at 16 schools, because if you were to play for a championship for us, you can't play in a championship in another league. So are our schools going to lead the Texas High School Lacrosse League to come play for our championship?
See, I didn't necessarily know that. Okay.
So if you're playing for a championship somewhere else, you can't necessarily come be a champion with us. So that's kind of where that flies. Okay.
So Brian, I know we've taken a long time, but
we're good.
Real quickly, I want to talk about technology, specifically related to football this year. So we've got some new rules. Obviously, UIL kind of dipped their toe in the water, and we're looking at live video being able to be used in the press box and in the locker rooms at halftime. You guys took it a little step further. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for the last 5 years, when Huddle Live came out and some other products came out, even back when we had a couple other vendors that were doing it, the idea of being the National Federation of High Schools rules were allowing you to do it out of state. And the NCAA, which we follow, and the UIL, I think we wanted to keep a level playing field for economics based for schools. But we were going to probably pull the trigger anyway. The UIL beat us to the trigger. But if you can use it in the press box and you can use it in the locker room, they're going to use it on the sideline. And they would be sneaky about it or whatever. So why just take temptation out of it and say use it. Now, I don't want to see TVs on big wheeled carts and whatever coming in, but if you want to use a tablet like the NFL or whatever. So that's kind of why we allowed that one. We said, you know what, if you want to do it and you've got the money to do it and you've got the personnel to do it, it would be a distraction to me as a coach, either on the sideline or in the box or as a head coach. But if it helps you and it helps you to talk, I think the biggest asset here is going to be the locker room, to be honest with you, because you can have somebody cut your huddle live, then send it to your locker room or whatever. I've had the question happen, well, can I have a coach sitting at home do the same thing? Can he be on the tablet, cut it for me, and send it to my coaches? You know, you've probably, if you're broadcasting on YouTube or if you know, like when we broadcast or y'all, you know, somebody could be doing that now. You could have somebody back in Houston right now editing this video and saying, hey, whatever. So I think that's going to happen, but I think it's been happening, I guess is what I'm saying. And then the other side of that is, you know, the other technology on that side. We're not going to do the helmet to helmet or the coach to kid yet. I think the NCAA is going to do that. But you know, when you do that at the professional level, it's whatever the time is, and when they break for there's a cutoff or whatever. I believe there's probably somebody in the box going to push a button that shuts it down. I think that's what you're going to see at the college level too. At the high school level, that wouldn't happen. So I could literally see Dan yelling into his headset to some quarterback, "Hey, the guy's going to, you know, your X is open," and you know.
There's a team not to be named, but their kid had one in their helmet, and the kid's literally running down the field, and the coach is telling him, "Cut left, cut right, cut left, cut right."
Oh, wow.
You know, and kid led the league in rushing that year, but you know.
Oh, wow.
I love technology for what it can bring. I think there's information overload. We were all 15 years old. There were days I was doing good to remember to put both socks on that looked alike, much less have somebody tell me that. Now, the other thing that's really come up, and I think it's NFL-driven, is this Guardian cap or thereabouts, the puffy helmet cover or whatever. So we were approached by a number of schools. I think there's going to be parents that want to buy that for their child. I don't think school-based. I don't know that I see it. The UIL's not going to allow it. Just throw it out there. I'm not good or bad. What we decided was if the schools want to allow it for their students, one or all, they've got to match the helmet that you're wearing as close as you can. But at the same time, you're going to sign away and hold harmless agreement, and you're going to absolve us of life. It's your choice, not mine.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm allowing it doesn't mean you need to do it. So that's going to be some technology change. I don't know that I see the coach to player in that. Now, we do allow coach to player in softball and baseball. We did that this year. Not as many softball schools took advantage of it, but the baseball did.
Well, I think in NCAA they did FBS only on the helmet to coach. That's why they're holding off on the rest of those divisions. That was UIL's rationale for not bringing.
You know, if the
in.
UIL does it, we'll probably have to see going forward. But right now, I don't know that I see the need for it.
Well, what about the conversation John and I had after we talked about that? What about when you get to the state level? How is that? And say you have one school that has the ability to do that, and the other one doesn't.
We don't. If you want to pay them, if it's the sideline technology or that's up to you to bring it. So you know, we don't say you have headphones and you got a full set and you don't, that you can't use yours. As long as you've got it, you can use it.
But it wouldn't be anything that the organization would make sure that both schools had the opportunity to have equal technology at the state title game.
I'm not going to do something week 15 that you didn't do weeks 1 through 14. If you want to do it, you can do it. If you want to borrow it, you can borrow it. And, you know, it's not just Huddle's our partner and whatever, but you could use any system you have and be able to cut the video. I do know that right now there's people with their iPhone standing up there in the press box or whatever taking a picture. Now, what it leads me to be concerned about is we have a rule, as do most of the other high school organizations, if you're not a party to the game, you can't film it. But technology has become so easy. You know that when people go scout a game right now, they see them run out trips left with a tight end. They take a picture of it. It's easier than doing this. But it's against the rules, but it's really a factor of do you get caught or not. And we've got parents now. I always thought about that rule for coaches. It made sense. We've got parents, though, that will go ahead and scout a game. Though, my son or daughter are going to play, so mom will take the daughter to this volleyball game, and dad will go over here and try to take pictures. I mean, it's like, so to your point, they're just so invested in success.
Yeah.
But that's against the rules too. So.
Wow. Well, again, we've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you again. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. You know what? Been a good year. Going to be a great 24-25, and we're going to be in this boat together. So we'll drive it. Y'all jump on and come with us. So we appreciate you.
All right.
Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, my man.
Thank you.